Hello there, welcome to Under Review. This is Series 1, Episode 1. I'm Vicar Bryant-Frost, your host, and today we're joined by Isaac Whitaker and Oliver Whale, who are going to be speaking about our first subject today, which is should shops have reopened in England? And after that, we're going to be talking about our second subject, which we're going to discuss next week for the first 10 minutes, which is should face masks be made mandatory everywhere? So, we're going to kick off with our first subject. So, on the 15th of June, non-essential shops were allowed to reopen in a further easing of the lockdown in the UK. So that means like clothes shops or hairdressers. So they were closed on the 24th of March, which was a few months ago. So they've been closed for quite a long time now. And now has come the time for them to reopen. So essential shops have been open throughout the lockdown, but non-essential shops have been closed, which has really made the economy struggle. So our first opinion is from Isaac Whitaker, who is going to be talking about what he thinks. I'll hand it to him now.
Hi, it's Isaac from the Code Labs podcast. Thank you for having me on Vigo, and thank you for listening, Under Review listener. So I'm quite excited to be here, and of course the concept of today's episode is should shops be reopened? So first I was going to jump straight in and say of course they should, because that is my opinion on the matter, a bit of a spoiler. But then I remembered that some shops are actually already open. A bit of a random anecdote, but I went, I think if it was last weekend, I went and I had a lovely lunch at Pret a Manger. I mean, they had social distancing in place, so it was only 6 people in the shop at the time. They had reduced staff, reduced hours to keep them safe, but still, business as usual. Whilst it's a different usual, it's coming back. So it's fair to say that some shops are now open. It's just a question of whether they will open fully. I do think that shops should open fully because there are a lot of things that we need as a society that we can't access without the shops being open. And whilst they are still open and we are allowed to have non-essential shopping, it's at a reduced rate. There's security measures in place to make sure that we're all safe. So I think they're doing the right thing, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to be able to go back out into, just roam free a little bit, I suppose. Again, thanks to Vigo for having me on. Please check out my podcast on Spotify, and it's also on Anchor. So go to anchor.fm/codelabs. Thanks again to Vigo for having me on Under Review, and enjoy the podcast.
So thank you for that, Isaac. We had a few key points there. So the first one was that shops are open now, and there are new measures in place. Not all of them new, so social distancing has been in place throughout the lockdown, but there are now new safety measures to ensure the safety of customers when they're inside the shop, because indoor spaces have been proven to be an easier place where viruses can be transmitted. So outside, the virus can't transmit so fast. This is probably because there's less fresh air inside. So he was also talking about the fact there's reduced staff in shops because they need to social distance as well, the staff. And if there's not as many customers in the shop, then there doesn't need to be as many staff in the shop. So let's think about this like a chessboard. It's public health vs the economy, and this is not a good match for a chess game. If the public health loses, then the economy is going to win, but we're going to lose lots of lives. So we can't really make a sacrifice, one or the other. We have to have a draw here, because both need to survive. If one survives, it could be a catastrophe. It could either be a financial crisis, or we could lose half our population. That might be a bit drastic, but yes, this could go either way. And the public health has been taking lots of steps throughout this crisis to keep it up and running. So we've had the lockdown, obviously, stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives, which was eased a few weeks ago to stay alert. And it's now being eased further with shops being opened. Now, this is a step towards the economy getting itself back in business. So we are not in a normal situation here. Even with shops open, there are safety measures, and we haven't got our normal shops back here. Queues on the high street, that's not what you would normally expect in an ordinary situation. And it's definitely the right thing to do to get the economy back, because public health has had its share of the moves, and now the economy needs to come back, because otherwise we could have another financial crisis like we had in 2008. Our next guest is going to be Oliver Whale, and he's going to be talking about his opinion of a few different aspects of this point of view. And okay, I'm going to hand over to him now.
Hello and welcome to my bit. What do you think of the news? This week I'll be talking about a much asked question. Should shops be open, and if so, which shops? Some people think that this is a complete waste of time and there's no such thing as COVID-19. Now, of course, we do know that there is such thing as COVID-19, there is scientific proof. But whether it affects us in the UK, individual counties, is harder to track. I've been looking at different places, different websites, for instance, Bing and Google and BBC, they've been saying completely different things. But I'm here to ask the question, should they be open? And if you'd like to submit your opinions, the email address is on the description. Some people have been saying that everyone should be online and click and collect. Obviously there are advantages to that. For example, you don't have to come in contact with people. It's said to be more eco-friendly, but click and collect I think is more eco-friendly, not shopping online. Wait, no, other way around, silly me. But others think this is a completely unacceptable waste of time because they have no proof, and obviously that's understandable. But it's hard. It's a very hard question. If you'd like to submit your opinions, please do. I'd be grateful because I'm frankly running out of ideas. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for that, Oliver. So we had a few key points in there. It should be online. That is a key point that he made in there. Click and collect is getting a lot more popular through this crisis, and it was even more popular before the crisis. He also said that click and collect could be more eco-friendly. Now, this is a good point, but it is quite controversial as well. And yes, there are more advantages online as well. So that is a good point. And his other point was the virus is hard to track. It is very hard to track, even though we have track and trace in place and quite a few measures to make sure we have it under control. We don't have a controller which controls the virus, because that is impossible. It's not sometimes like the virus has a mind of its own. So that, if you think about the chessboard, that makes public health and the economy step back and think. What are we going to do? We have to keep this R number down, and both of us could suffer if this R number it threatens to go up above 1 again, which is what we had earlier in the crisis. This R number is key. It has to keep it down. So we have succeeded in keeping it down, and we don't want it to go back up again by not social distancing or not wearing face masks, which I'll discuss later. So opening shops is great for the retail sector because the retail sector relies on shops, and they have been forced to basically shut down the whole retail sector as a result of this lockdown. Well, when I say the retail sector, obviously food shopping, which is essential shopping, is still part of the retail sector, but that is essential, and that's stayed open throughout the lockdown. It hasn't been forced to close. So we don't want to hard hit the economy by keeping shops closed. So we have taken a step to avoid the big hard hit, the economical crash which could come if we force shops to remain closed. And this could last a number of years, and it already could. We can't help it. We have to save public lives. So we have to also balance the economy on top of the public health, which is not an easy balance. It's a difficult decision for the government to have to choose between protecting the economy and protecting public lives. But in this crisis, because COVID-19 has been going round and killing too many people, public health has to come first, not the economy. But now is the time, the government have decided, to get the economy back up and running, because we are now coming out to the start of the end of this crisis. We have seen further easing of the lockdown in the last few weeks. So this is the end. This is the end of the middle, should I say. We are getting back to a sort of normality, and no matter how slow it is, we've got to get back, and that's what we are doing. You're listening to Under Review. I'm Viggo Bryant Frost. We're now going to move on to our next subject, which is, should face masks be made mandatory everywhere? So let's kick off with the main headline. So, face masks have been made compulsory in England. This is on 15th of June, along with the reopening of shops and a further easing of the lockdown. So British Transport Police are going to be enforcing this rule, running checks at stations, etc., interchanges. And as more people begin to use transport because people are going back to work, the logic behind this rule is that there'll be more people on public transport, that's trains, buses, tubes. So it might not always be easy to social distance and keep 2 meters apart. Now, if this is reduced to 1 meter, that might be a bit easier, but even if it is reduced to 1 meter, it might still be quite hard to keep your distance on a crowded public transport. So face masks are almost a substitute for social distancing, but still you need to keep social distance where possible. And also they've told people to look away from each other to avoid spreading germs directly to their mouth. So people have less space and now have to wear a face covering to substitute not social distancing. So there are a few problems with this. So first of all, not everyone will follow the rule, and British Transport Police just can't really always be on every carriage of a train making sure people are wearing face masks, because they don't have enough people to do that. So people might not wear them properly. They might not put them on the right way. They might touch their face and touch the face covering all over, or put it on the wrong way round. But they don't, and also people don't think they apparently make much of a difference and aren't fully worth it, according to some studies, but they're obviously better than nothing. But according to Today.com, face masks greatly reduce the risk of catching the coronavirus. So there's quite a bit of controversy about whether they actually do a good job, but they are now mandatory, so please wear one if you're going on public transport. This might be subject to disbelief from some people that they actually do anything, but they're going to have to wear one. So our first question is, should face masks be worn at stations, in all public outdoor spaces, indoor spaces, everywhere? So obviously they're not mandatory in stations, they're only mandatory on the actual public transport and the actual train or bus. But inside stations, there's still an indoor space which is public, and there's lots of people going around queuing at ticket barriers, etc., etc. So they might need to wear one there as well. So the second question is, are they a waste of money? Are they a waste of materials? If they don't do that much, are they just a throwaway, disposable nothingness because they don't do much? So if face masks are put on the wrong way, they can be useless. And according to The Guardian, the first day where they were compulsory was patchy. So do you think they should be mandatory? Or do you wear one? Do you travel in public transport? But some people say that this could be our new normal. If we want to get back to a level of normality, we're going to have to accept some subjects that are going to have to be in place. And this is one of them. We're going to have to accept that we have to wear face masks. We have to substitute social distancing for something if it can't be followed all the time. And do you think they should be worn everywhere on public transport? So according to the Telegraph, Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, says that face coverings could be the new normal for a whole year. This is quite a bold statement, because we don't know how long this crisis is going to last for. But if it does last for a lot longer, then we're going to have to keep these rules in place for quite a long time. And this could be a whole year, it could be 2 years perhaps, or it could just be a few months. We don't know. The virus has a mind of its own, some people think. So it's quite uncertain. We have a lot of degree of uncertainty. So some people might just completely ignore the rules and just decide, no, I don't want to wear a face mask, it's not going to do much. Or not follow them properly, not wear them on public transport, or only wear them outside. So we already see a lot of people wearing them outdoors, and some people everywhere. So they are definitely following the rule. And also, some people wear particular types of face mask, like more powerful face mask, for example. Should we be wearing a particular type of face mask? So in the NHS, they wear clinical masks, which are powerful masks, which probably block out more germs than normal masks that people can buy commercially. Should we be wearing those masks? Should we save them for the NHS workers? Personally, I think the NHS workers are most important here because they are exposed to the most coronavirus, because they work in a hospital, which is the hub for diseases. So is there there's not just normal face masks, there are different types of face masks which we could be wearing. So tell us what you think about this. I'll tell you later how to submit your opinions. Do you wear a different type of face mask? Do you wear a homemade face mask? Because homemade face masks, they might not be made properly. You have to make them properly, otherwise they don't work properly. Probably you have to have 2 layers, otherwise they don't really do much. So should we be wearing verified face masks, which are definitely doing enough, or should we just be banned from wearing particular types of face masks or homemade face masks? Please tell us what you think. Do you wear a homemade face mask? How do you make it? Because you need to have it tight enough. And also, people might just when they say wear a face covering, they might mistake it not for a face mask, but for like a scarf or a snood. They might not wear a proper face covering. So this is quite a big matter. People might just wear scarves, which is not proper face covering. Even though it covers their face, it's not going to block out germs so easily. Okay, we are nearly at the end of the episode, so we're going to tell you how to submit your opinions in a moment, so you can do that. But first, please listen to the next episode as well and subscribe to our podcast. We will see you next week. So if you want to submit your opinions, please go to anchor.fm/underreviewcast. That's all one word. Anchor.fm/underreviewcast. There you can click on message and you can record your message just through the web browser. So I'll see you next week. Goodbye. And please say a thank you to Isaac Whitaker and Oliver Whale, who have been really real help in submitting their opinions to me, which have featured on the show today. And you could be on the show next week. Just need to get your opinions in, and yep. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.